keynote speech, which was arranged for the morning session, couldn't be delivered due to a personal issue, and now we are back to deliver the keynote speech. The application scope of AI is expanding, so AI is always mentioned when we talk about the future technology. So the educational community has high expectation on its infinite possibility to bring change to education. It is expected that AI will be able to identify all learners' levels and tendencies, providing tailored education and enable educators to focus solely on education by reducing excessive administrative tasks. So we have prepared a time to talk about the education innovations that we brought about by AI, and at the same time how we should prepare for this change. We have with us Professor Wayne Holmes of the University College London, who is a guru in artificial intelligence education. He'll give a keynote speech under the theme of artificial intelligence education, a critical studies perspective. Let me briefly introduce Wayne Holmes. He is an associate professor at the UCL Knowledge Lab at University College London, and he is leading the Council of Europe's project. And he is a consultant for the Technology and AI in Education Unit at UNESCO, for which he co-wrote AI and Education. Without further ado, I will introduce Professor Wayne Holmes to the podium. We'll now start the keynote speech.
Thank you very much. If I may, I will share my screen. Well, I'd like to start by thanking the EdTech Forum team for the very kind invitation for me to join you today. I'm delighted to be here. As mentioned, I'm an associate professor at University College London. I'm also a senior researcher for the International Research Centre of Artificial Intelligence. I'm AI and Education lead expert for the Council of Europe and a consultant for UNESCO's Technology and Artificial Intelligence in Education unit. My research takes a critical studies perspective to the teaching and application of artificial intelligence in educational context, AI and Ed, and their ethical, humanistic, and social implications. To begin with, what AI can achieve is pretty amazing. From beating the world's best player of Go to automatically identifying diabetes from retinal scans and helping protect against fraud, which is why I have huge respect for AI researchers. But AI is not as good as many people say. To give just one example, we were told that AI was going to bring huge benefits to tackle the COVID pandemic. But the reality is that so far, AI has contributed very little. None of the thousands of AI models were of clinical use. And this is just one meta-analysis. I know of others that say a similar thing. In fact, like any innovation, with AI, there's often more hype and more myths than reality. One myth, for example, is that AI is better than humans at image recognition. Now, when you look at this image, I'm pretty sure that you can recognize a panda. And the AI agrees with 57.7% confidence. But what happens when we mix this image with some noise? Well, we end up with this. Now, I'm sure that you still see a panda. And now the AI is 99.3% confident, but confident that it's a gibbon. And then there's facial recognition, such as this example from Amazon Recognition. The system is able to recognize people like me lighter skinned males with 100% accuracy. But men with darker skin, not so good. And for women with lighter skin, even worse. While for women with darker skin, unacceptable. But maybe this is just about the maturity of the tech. And as it develops, it will get better. But that still leaves open the question whether facial recognition should be used widely at all. What are the possible impacts of facial recognition on human rights? Another myth is that AI doesn't need people, but that's not true. A human chooses and cleans the data. They label the data. With companies like this in developing countries like Kenya, the workers spend all day in the background as ghost workers, identifying the objects in streams of video. Here's a person, here's a car, here's another person. Then a human designs the network and writes the algorithms, and then trains the network. A human then curates the outputs and makes the final judgments. So a human is present throughout. Also, many claim that their AI is intelligent. I mean, it's right there in the name, artificial intelligence. But AI is not intelligent. Machine learning, which is currently the dominant approach in AI, is about statistics and pattern finding in data. No AI system today comes anywhere close to human intelligence, not even large language models such as the infamous GPT-3. Sometimes AI tools might appear intelligent, but that's a long way from actually being intelligent. Now, this on the screen is the original Mechanical Turk, a chess-playing machine from the late 18th century, which appeared intelligent, but which was revealed to be a fake. There was a human chess player concealed inside. Perhaps more worryingly, our increasing reliance on AI means that the whole world is becoming increasingly reliant on a small number of big tech companies, over which we have very limited or no democratic control. As the ethics researcher Timnit Gebru found out when she was fired by Google for questioning one aspect of their AI work. Gebru also points out that while you might often hear talk of artificial general intelligence, AI that's more intelligent than humans, or AI that will take over the world, the real issues are actually more prosaic. I'm not worried about machines taking over the world. I'm worried about groupthink, insularity, and arrogance in the AI community. The people creating the technology are a big part of the system. If many are actively excluded from its creation, this technology will benefit a few while harming a great many. Finally, all the exciting possibilities and the major challenges of AI make me think of electricity. Electricity can be used for amazing things, like keeping premature babies alive. But electricity can also be used for horrible things. So it's not about the electricity, it's about how we choose to use electricity. Similarly, perhaps it's not about the AI, maybe it's about how we choose to use the AI. Nonetheless, AI does bring some interesting possibilities to education. And there are many people who will tell you all about those possibilities, if only because AI in education is a $6 billion market. So in this talk, I'm not going to do that. Instead of being yet another cheerleader for AI in education, my focus is on the very many current challenges and making suggestions for a human-centered future of AI and education. In fact, you might think I'm sometimes a bit negative, but I like to think I bring a critical but constructive perspective. In fact, the connections between AI and education are more complex than many recognize, and there's a lot of hype and exaggeration. To help us navigate that complexity, I'm first going to explore some of the connections in terms of two buckets: the application of AI in education and the teaching of AI in education, two distinct but complementary aspects of AI in education. Beginning with the application of AI in education, which is sometimes known as AI Ed, there are three types: learner supporting AI, teacher supporting AI, and institution supporting AI, all of which overlap. Then, in the teaching of AI in education, there's the human dimension and the technological dimension. So first, let's look at the application of AI in education, beginning with institution supporting AI. Institution supporting AI is most similar to the AI used in many businesses. It's AI for the boring back-end education administration tasks. It involves AI for recruitment and financial planning, and some more education-focused tasks such as admissions, timetabling, learning management, and attendance recording. Although important and growing, and may soon become the power behind the throne, this has probably received the least focus by researchers or the commercial sector, and it's not really my area. So what about student supporting AI? This is where all the money is, and where the focus has been for more than 10 years, which is why there are so many different types. I'll summarize just a few. To begin with, there's the so-called intelligent tutoring systems. The list on the right are just some of the multi-million-dollar funded companies that are already offering this kind of tool. In summary, the system provides the student with some information and an activity or quiz, and how the student responds determines the next piece of information, activity or quiz. This adaptivity means that in theory, every student follows their own pathway through the material to be learned. Another type of learner supporting AI are dialogue-based tutoring systems. These use a Socratic conversational approach, a dialogue of questions and answers to guide the learner through the material to be learned. And then there's automatic writing evaluation, mostly for formative assessment, but increasingly for summative assessment. There's also what I call learning network orchestrators, which use AI to connect people together, like Smart Learning Partner from Beijing Normal University. With this system, if a student hasn't understood something in their classroom, they call up the app, type in what they want to know, and the app connects them with a list of human tutors, all rated by other students, much like a dating app. And they get 20 minutes of one-to-one human tuition, sharing screen and voice only. What I particularly like about this tool is that it's the learner who's in charge, not the AI. Then there's chatbots, which are increasingly being used in education to provide immediate support to students. And finally, I mentioned AI-assisted virtual reality, augmented reality, and simulations. So there's a huge and growing range of applications of AI in education designed to support students, which often means replacing teacher functions. But what about teachers supporting AI tools? In fact, there's relatively little AI that's genuinely designed to support teachers. And for me, a dashboard doesn't count. However, very recently, I've come across a few teacher supporting tools, though I've not been able to find out much about them. First, there's using AI to create education resources, such as X5 Gone from my colleagues at ERCI, and similar tools from IBM and the Lebanon, although all of them still need a lot of work to be really useful. Then there's this tool, the AI Coach from Athena, essentially an intelligent tutoring system for teacher training. And then there's Grade, which is designed to support human teachers when they mark assessments. In other words, rather than the automatic writing evaluation tools I mentioned earlier, It's the teacher who does the assessing, not the AI. But that's about all there is of AI tools especially designed to support teachers, rather than AI tools designed to support students, which effectively aim to replace teacher functions. And then there's teaching of AI, the human dimension, what it means to live in a world increasingly impacted by AI, and the technological dimension, how it works and how to create it. I'll begin with the technical dimension. There's a lot of technical things to be learned about AI, such as finding patterns in data and AI models and AI algorithms. On the other hand, some argue that it isn't necessary to learn how an internal combustion engine works if you just want to be able to drive. So long as you know which pedals to press, you can enjoy driving wherever you want. So why do you need to know how AI works if you just want to use it? That all may be true, but it's important to remember that even if we don't need to know how an engine works, as well as knowing which pedals to press, we also need to understand the rules of the road so that we can drive safely, protecting other road users. But currently, there's little like that for AI, which is why the teaching of AI needs to bring together both the technical and the human dimensions of AI, how AI works and can be created, together with the impact of AI on human cognition, on human rights, on jobs, how we can deal with AI hype, AI biases, fake news, and so on. And these two dimensions should be interwoven throughout any course. The human dimension shouldn't just be tagged on somewhere at the end. So what kind of human issues am I talking about? To begin with, there's infrastructure. It's all well and good putting resources into AI tools, but what if it's impossible for people to access those tools because lack of electricity or internet access? And remember earlier I mentioned bias. Then there's AI-assisted marketing and AI-assisted surveillance technology, both of which can undermine personal privacy. And of course, there's the possible impact on jobs. Many say there'll be an overall increase in jobs thanks to AI, but that doesn't help the individuals who might lose their job in the meantime. Now, many researchers are focusing on the impact of AI on people, such as the AI Now Institute in New York, but rarely does the human dimension of AI feature prominently in education. In the US, for example, there's the AI K-12 initiative, which is developing an AI curriculum for US schools. Societal impact is just one of 5. Meanwhile, universities around the world have been offering AI-related courses for many years, covering everything from machine learning to coding and data science, but rarely the human dimension. And for ordinary citizens, there are resources like this one, which is Elements of AI from Finland, which again only touches on the human dimension. And similarly for projects like this one for children. So how does this play out in education? What are the claims made by many AI and education companies, and how do they stand up? First, many claim that the AI ed tools are intelligent, but as we've seen, they're not. No AI ed tool is anywhere near as intelligent as a human teacher. AI systems in education are extremely limited in what they can achieve. It's all smoke and mirrors, and we mustn't allow ourselves to be fooled. Another claim is that these AI ed tools will save teacher time. But that claim has been made about education technologies for almost 100 years, and it's never happened. Of course, AI, we're told, is different, and AI ed will finally save teacher time. I know most teachers, including me, would love a tool that takes care of their marking, but no AI ed system is capable of the depth of interpretation or accuracy of analysis that a teacher can give. And if it does save teacher time with a focus on efficiency, not a word I find comfortable in education, what would the impact be on teacher jobs? And what about personalization? This is something we hear about all the time. It's an ambition that's again been around for almost 100 years, which has re-emerged most recently from Silicon Valley. If we can have personalized recommendations on Netflix, why can't we do that in education? But this completely misses the point. Some AI ed tools might provide each student with their own individual pathway through the materials, but they still take them to the same fixed learning outcomes as everyone else. This is a weak understanding of personalization. It's more like the homogenization of students, ensuring they all fit in the right box. Real personalization is not about personalized pathways, but about helping each individual student to achieve their own potential, to self-actualize, to enhance their agency, which is something that no existing AI tool does. Education is also about collaboration and the other social interaction aspects of teaching and learning, which is the antithesis of the so-called personalization. And then there are the ethical questions, starting with ethics of data and algorithms, issues such as informed consent, privacy, ownership. But although thinking about the ethics of data and algorithms is necessary, it isn't sufficient. There's also the ethics of pedagogical choice. Almost every existing commercial learning with AI tool adopts a behaviorist or instructionist pedagogy, an extremely primitive approach to teaching and learning. These pedagogy choices all have ethical consequences. And in so doing, they disempower teachers, turn them all too often into mere technology facilitators. Again, this misses the point, ignoring the amazing skills that human teachers have that no AI tool can replicate. It also represents the commercialization of education by stealth, as education systems increasingly rely on educational tools provided by the commercial sector, including big tech such as Facebook, Google, and Amazon. AI also might have negative impact on human cognition. As a metaphor, think about GPS and route planning software, which we all now depend on to navigate around our towns. But there's evidence that people who use GPS more now have worse spatial memory. So not only do AI classroom devices narrow students' learning, they might also impact negatively on their cognitive development. The point is, we just don't know. Some tools also claim to detect the student's emotional state. The aim is laudable, to move a student from negative to positive emotional state to enhance their learning. But using AI tools to detect student emotion, in my opinion, crosses a final privacy frontier. As does this, the use of AI to monitor or surveil student attention. In fact, this technology was stopped in Chinese schools a couple of years ago, but it's still been developed and used elsewhere, such as in e-proctoring. In the pandemic, as education moved online, many assessments also moved online, and exam monitoring or e-proctoring companies saw their business grow massively. But the use of e-proctoring is hugely controversial. It's accused of intrusion, failing to work properly, exacerbating mental health problems. The point is that this is another example of automating poor pedagogic practices rather than using AI to develop innovative approaches. And I worry that this is the logical conclusion of current approaches to AI in education. When a child's born, why don't we simply embed a microchip with all the world's knowledge in their brain? Or perhaps one day we'll be able to do it with a pill. Now, this might seem an exaggeration, but the chip isn't. Elon Musk and multiple other companies are developing brain-based computer chips as we speak. The thing is that most AI and education developers start with the AI and look around to see what problems they might fix. I think we need to change this around. We need to start with the educational problems in which educators and academics are the experts, and then ask AI engineers to use their expertise to solve those problems. Put another way, most AI and education developers focus on the obvious symptoms rather than the complex causes of the problems that education faces. The symptoms might be severe, such as children not receiving the education they deserve, and using technology might help some of them. But the real issues, the causes, are the lack of qualified teachers and the use of poor pedagogic practices, which the AI tools don't even begin to address. Putting technology such as AI tools into settings where there aren't enough experienced teachers is a techno-solutionist approach, which addresses the symptoms and not the causes, which perpetuates rather than solves the real problems. Here's another example of techno-solution. What's the apparent problem? Students spend time queuing in canteens to pay for their lunch. What's the techno-solution? Facial recognition to automate payments. But the real problem is, how do we ensure all students get a healthy lunch? And what's a human or social solution? Make the food free for students so that there's no queuing to pay. By the way, this is from a school in the UK, which was reported only a few months ago. Now, even if you reject my concerns, if you think I'm making a fuss over nothing, we still really don't know if any of the AI tools actually do what they claim to do. Where's the evidence? The reality is that almost no AI and education companies' products have been independently evaluated. Where are the robust, independent, randomized controlled trials at scale? There are almost none. Now, having said all that, what some AI tools can achieve in education is impressive. The researchers have overcome some huge technical challenges. In a sense, they've managed to climb this huge mountain. But still, the tools that they developed are very limited when compared with human teachers in contemporary pedagogy, and frequently they're highly questionable. Perhaps most importantly, they ignore the bigger mountain of possibilities that AI might help achieve. So rather than automating poor pedagogic practices, AI developers need to leverage AI's amazing capabilities to innovate teaching and learning without compromising pedagogy or human values, to empower students and teachers, to support inclusion and equity, and for the common good. In particular, instead of pretending that an AI tool is better than a teacher, which it never is, where are the AI-powered virtual exoskeletons for teachers to help them become super teachers? Similarly, where are the AI-powered lifelong learning companions for students? Again, very little research and no known commercial products. In conclusion, to be clear, I'm not saying that AI or AI in education are always bad. I still believe there's some amazing potential. But I am criticizing current applications of AI in education and the way things are currently developing. In my opinion, we need to change the trajectory. So what I am saying is that AI is extraordinary, but not as clever as many people claim. AI is already having a major impact on education, and it has the potential to transform education for good, but if we're not careful, also for bad. We need to avoid simply automating poor pedagogic practices. Instead, we need to use the power of AI to develop innovative approaches to teaching and learning that address real problems. We need to empower teachers. We need tools that promote student agency, helping them to achieve their personal potential to self-actualize. We need to recognize that embedding commercial AI tools in classrooms is a commercialization of education by the back door. And finally, we need to ensure that AI in education meets real needs, is inclusive and equitable, and serves the common good. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much for your presentation, keynote speech, Professor Holmes. Yes, 자 이렇게 해서 기조 연설 함께 하셨습니다. 저도 지금
We have listened to the keynote speech.
팔로우를 하고 있는데 기조 강연 늦은 시간이지만 많이 기대를 해주셨고 또
Thank you for your patience.
매우 유익하다는
Thank you for waiting until the final keynote address. And many participants said that was a very insightful presentation. And now we will have a Q&A session with the participants. Professor Holmes are joining with us in real time. And there are a lot of opinions to begin with. This artificial intelligence. You pointed out various issues related to AI in education. A person with ID Eggy Cheese said you touched upon the humanistic aspect of person using the AI. So it seems the humanistic characteristic is very important, and I think that it will be very important to cultivate the skills to wisely use the AI. talents. And the losing jobs of AI, I think we need to come up with the adequate measures to address this issue. I think for very long, we have had a lot of discussion about this. Now I will raise question. I'll read the questions that was posted. Jack, ID Jack.
Professor Holmes, even though there are many limitations to functions and roles of AI, what is the point of applying it to education? And what should we teachers do to make the best use of it?
Well, thank you very much for that question. I think my attitude to AI in education is not that it's not useful, but that the current examples are not that useful. So the kind of tools that are most common, the so-called intelligent tutoring systems, they can be useful, but useful perhaps for homework when a child or student is practicing and engaging with learning at home. Where I find it quite worrying is when those tools are being used in a classroom, because by definition, they expect the student to work one-to-one with a computer and to ignore their peers sat next to them and to ignore the teacher. That makes no sense to me, because a classroom is a social space, and to take advantage of the social aspects of teaching and learning is very important. But for the tools to be used for this by the student at home, that makes some sense to me. But there are also other possibilities. So I talked about the smart learning partner from BNU. Now, this uses fairly simple AI, but it's to connect students with human tutors. So there's a very good use of AI, in my opinion. The student comes out of their class, they've not understood something, but by using smart learning partner, they can have a quick chat with a human tutor and ask them about something that they, the student, don't understand, and they, the student, want to understand. So it's not the AI telling them, now you learn this. It's the student saying, I want to learn this. And that's a very different approach. So I think there are ways in which we can use AI in teaching and learning to support teachers, to support students. But at the moment, the kind of tools that have been developed so far are not that exciting, not that interesting.
So thank you very much for your answer. Of course, for education, AI can provide support, but when we think about what AI can do, we really have to be cautious. And there are some comments. Of course, we need to also think about the ethical aspects of AI, and there was a comment provided by Lucky on YouTube.
Professor 하고 지금 질문 주신 잭님께서 바로 실시간으로 감사하다는 코멘트를 남겨주셨습니다. 자, AI를요 학습 지원 도구로
Of course, AI can be used to support students' learning, but what kind of capabilities do teachers need to have in order to utilize AI to support students? In order to use AI as a supporting tool for students, what kind of capabilities do teachers need to have?
Again, a good question. Thank you. I think you're right. You know, as citizens of the world, as students, as teachers, we are growing up in a world where AI is everywhere. It's on our smartphones, it's on our TVs, it's in our cars. Everywhere we are coming across AI. But we're only beginning to see AI in classrooms. And teachers, many teachers, have little experience of that use. And as I mentioned, I think it's important that teachers have a basic understanding of how AI works, but also the human impacts of AI. And they also need to understand how the tools that they're being offered can be used and the ways in which they might limit teaching and learning. So I do agree that it's really important that teachers receive good quality professional development in artificial intelligence, both in the technological dimension, but also in the human dimension. And by doing that, we will enable our teachers to make decisions about what AI tools to use in their teaching and what AI tools not to use, which ones to avoid. And they will understand better the problems that these tools might bring to the classroom, and so how the teachers can work with them to minimize those problems, to turn them around. So I agree, for me, the teacher, the human teacher in the classroom is so important, and it's something we must continue to support. And the tools that AI provides are there to support the teacher and shouldn't try to replace what the teacher can do, because frankly, the AI tools cannot replace what the teacher can do. So the teacher needs to be aware of the possibilities, but also the challenges, so they can make best use of AI to support their teaching and learning of their students in their classroom.
Thank you very much. AI가 대체할 수 없는 부분도
So there are a lot of things that AI cannot do, and of course, it cannot substitute or replace the human teachers.
질문을 주시면서
And
다시 한 번 더 서브로 말씀해 주시면
there is another
실제로
comment
많은
and
교사들이
question.
AI에 대해서
A lot of teachers have never received any training on AI technologies and AI tools, and so they have a lot of uncertainties and concerns. But maybe it could be really useful as a tool to provide individualized education. So we are somehow fearful of the AI tools, but we also believe that it could be also useful for our students. So in order to improve the teachers' capabilities to utilize AI tools, probably you've already touched upon this topic. So what kind of staged training or capabilities development do we need to have in order to improve the teachers' capability to use AI tools? What kind of staged training do teachers need?
Well, I'll answer that, if I may, slightly sideways. One of the things that we often hear is that we need to ensure that teachers trust AI in their classrooms. And one of the ways that we can encourage teachers to trust AI in the classrooms, we're told, is to teach them about AI. And I think that's true, and I'll come back to that. Because the most important thing is that the tools have to be trustworthy. And many of the tools are not trustworthy. To give one example, with the tools that we're talking about, they collect a lot of data from the students. Now, the students pay money, or the schools pay money to use the system, and the system collects the data, and the system, the company uses that data as part of their business plan. Now, if a student created a painting or a poem or a piece of writing or a piece of music, the student would own the intellectual property of what they have created. So why is it any different when they create interaction data? Why is it that the company can just take that data and sell that data and monetize that data? So my point is that in the first instance, I don't think teachers are going to be willing to trust AI until the AI companies and their tools are trustworthy. And so issues like data and bias and privacy all need to be addressed. And once those things are addressed, then it's about encouraging teachers to engage with these tools, to use them, to go into them and to think, well, what are the problems with these tools? What do they do, but what do they not do? What happens if my internet connection goes down when I'm using them? What happens if a student's computer stops working when they're using? There are so many practical issues, quite apart from the AI technology itself. But then the teachers need to have a good understanding through good quality training in the human dimension of AI. What are the ways in which AI can impact upon society in general? How can AI impact upon the individual students, on the classroom, on the teacher? All that needs to be part of a quality educational, professional development for teachers about AI. And as far as I'm aware, around the world, there's very little of this. My colleagues at UNESCO did a survey of every country in the world to find out which countries had curriculum for students in AI. And of that more than 100 countries, very few, I think it was something like 7 countries had an AI curriculum. And even with them, there was no talk of professional development for teachers, or at least very little talk of that. So we need to think about this carefully. We need to empower teachers so that they are in control of the AI technologies that are being used in their classrooms.
Thank you very much for your insightful answer. 네, 역시나 정말 통찰력 있는 말씀이었습니다. 질문에 대한 답변 너무나
Thank you for such an
성의있게
insightful answer.
감사합니다.
Thank you, Professor
몇
Holmes.
가지 의견만 여러분께 좀 소개를 해드리고 이 시간 마무리하도록
Now I will read
하겠습니다.
some of the comments that was posted in the chat box.
코멘트를 주셨는데요. 신뢰성이 확보되지 않은 AI
Jack said that if I approach tools that lacks creditworthiness, I can't really trust that AI. And I think Professor Holmes rightly pointed out. Thank you for your presentation. And human should always be at the center, not the AI. Thank you for your presentation. And AI is a good tool to present the learning route, but it doesn't really provide a personalized route. So that was one of the feedback. And the goal of education is realizing one's a vision or dream. So it was an opportunity to really think about how I should utilize AI in education. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to listen to your presentation. So I have read some of the comments that were posted in the YouTube chat box. So today was the first day of 2022 EdTech. Thank you to Professor Holmes for your insightful presentation. Let's give him a big round of applause.